You know what? I might start going out in the winter more.
Simple Bike Guy here, and guys, this is very exciting. I think I finally found the ultimate riding system for my BMW R9T. To be honest, I don't normally ride my bike in the winter due to the cold weather and the salt on the roads, and it looked like this just a few days ago. But when Chigi reached out and asked if I wanted to check out this AIO-5 Lite smart riding system, I couldn't say no, as it has built-in front and rear cameras, wireless CarPlay. Look at that, look how fast it switches to that, so cool. And add-ons that will add TPMS functionality to my bike. Let's check it out. Let's start by quickly checking out all of the goodies that come in the box. And as you can see here, I also got the TPMS add-on for the system. That's actually one of the coolest features of this unit, as it's modular in a way, and you can add different items to it as well. It comes with wireless Apple CarPlay, dual dash cameras, blind spot monitoring, and much more, but you can add tire pressure monitoring, a remote control, OBD2 reader, and more. Anyway, in the box we get the quick start guide with the QR code for the app, which you will have to download to activate the device, and a full manual diving much deeper into the setup. We can also see the specs here. This is a 5-inch 1280 by 720 IPS display, which explains why it looks so good once installed. It's also water resistant with a rating of IP67. This includes the cameras and connections as well. Other than the main unit and the cameras, we get two boxes. Box A has the power wire harness and the GPS module, and box B has a set of adapters so that the mount fits any thickness handlebars. 5 zip ties and a couple of quick splice connectors are also included. We also get some stickers, cable ties, the mount bracket itself, some replacement 3M adhesive spritz for the cameras, and a toolkit to help with the install. The camera and power connectors are this screw-in type, which is what makes them waterproof, and I'm very happy to see that. I'm also happy to see that the cameras are adjustable and have a good length of wire for those bigger bikes. The unit itself is very well made and feels extremely solid in hand, and at the top we have physical buttons for switching modes and turning off the display. On the opposite side we have a USB port as well as a micro SD card slot under the watertight rubber cover. Mine came with a 32 gig micro SD card included. I believe they now include a 64 gig card instead, so you can store more footage. Anyway, it's time to get this installed. In my case, to get to the terminals on the bike, I have to remove the seat completely. So I started by removing the single bolt holding it in place. I know not everyone loves doing wiring or installing stuff on their bikes, but it's one of my favorite things to do. I get to tinker with my bike and get cool functionality at the end. Anyway, we will need access here in just a minute, but first let's check out this bracket. It's very well constructed and is completely metal with a nice coating. To adjust it, I use the included Torx wrench. It locks in place very solidly as it has ridges at the mating surface. At the same time, I loosened up the smaller opening of the bracket where the unit will be clicked into. Once tightened down, it's as solid as can be. Next, I removed the screw for the main clamp that goes over the handlebars. In my case, the thinnest spacer worked perfectly, but you have a couple of other options as well, depending on your bike. The screw then secures it in place. With the other screw still a little loose, I placed it where it wouldn't obstruct my view of the gauges and look the most factory, and then tighten down all of the screws. I love how at home it looks on this bike. Now to deal with all of the wiring. Luckily, all of the connections are labeled, and coming out of the unit we have the front and the rear camera connection, the power connection, and the GPS plug. Cameras are also labeled, which makes it easy once all of the wires are in the same place. To install those cameras, I peeled off the plastic of the adhesive strips, stuck them in place, and rotated the entire camera so that the arrow is on the top side. Tightening down the screw on the side ensures that the camera doesn't move while riding the bike. I chose to install the rear camera on the side of the bike, so the blind spot monitoring may not work as intended, but I like this placement better for myself. I also put a zip tie there for extra security in case I rub against it while getting off the bike. With everything installed, it's time to actually wire this up to the electrical system on the bike. You will need an always-on 12-volt connection,
In my case, I'm just connecting it to the bus bar under the seat, as access to the battery is very difficult. Of course, you will also need a ground connection, which can be almost any metal bolt on the frame, so I used the bolt in the same area. Now, the third yellow wire is a little more complicated, as you will have to find the wire that is powered only in accessory mode. I found one on this sensor right behind the bus bar. Usually I would try to do these connections on the fuse box, but this bike is run by the CAN bus system, and while there is technically a tiny fuse box somewhere, I was not able to find it easily. Anyway, this draws very low current, so it should not be an issue. I used one of the included quick splice connectors, and the wiring was done in just a couple of minutes. I then fished the wires through the frame and under the gas tank to the front to make the final connections. Oh yeah, and the GPS module was installed just on top of the headlight, so it's not blocked by anything. Since all of the connections are labeled, I connected everything and made sure it was nice and tight, and then hid the wires under the instrument cluster. I noticed I had some extra wire, so I pulled it back to hide under the seat for a neater install. With the seat reinstalled, we are all done, and at the end, this is a very elegant solution.
Alright, so everything is done. I have wired everything up, everything's connected. Let's power this thing on for the first time. So I'm going to power on the bike, we're going to go to accessory mode, and that's where it should power on. So obviously we have connected power and we have connected accessory mode, so it's powered for certain features, but it will only turn on when the accessory mode is on. Pretty cool. So what we're going to do here is just select English, then go OK. So it's asking you to download the app, which I have already done. So we're going to go to the app, and then we're going to click connect to device. So we're going to go to Bluetooth and then look for that device. It should be somewhere at the bottom. There it is. So I'm going to press on the device name, pair, allow sync. And now it's connected. Once connected to Bluetooth, we're going to connect to Wi-Fi as well. So I'm going to click on that, enter the password. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Join. All right, now you can go back to the app, and there it is. So we're going to have to confirm the connection on the device. All right, so we're going to say OK, connection established. And once everything is configured, we are presented with the actual interface of our motorcycle dash. Looks pretty cool to me. Of course, we're going to have our GPS speed right here, so that's going to give us a live speed as well as the correct time. I have to adjust the time zone, but that seems to be work. We also have the direction, and we have the TPMS information for the sensors. I will have to configure the sensors to make sure those are working properly, so we'll do that in just a minute. Of course, we have our car link, so this is going to be for wireless CarPlay, and we have the video. So if you go to video, that's going to be our cameras, so you can swap to front camera. There it is. And of course, we can swap to the rear camera, which is going to be just right here. I did install mine with a tiny bit of bike in the view, and well, that's for a good reason, because I wanted mine to be as hidden as possible, so it's not really in your face. Of course, we're going to have the speed and the direction included while we're driving on these cameras. Very nice to see that both of them are included, and I must say everything's very responsive. As you can see, it just goes from menu to menu with no delay at all. We also have this meter option, so this will be pretty cool to see as we're driving. We see the voltage of the battery. Probably should finish up pretty quick. We'll see the TPMS information once that's configured, the altitude, the time. We also have the trip meter right here, and if you get the OBD2 module, you will also see engine temp and throttle. I did not get that module, but I might actually do that in the future, since that's actually pretty cool to see. Going into setup, we have a few different options here. We have D and V, so this is going to be our brightness, of course. You can also change the background and things like that, turn off or on the startup sound and the touchstone, so maybe I'll turn that off so it doesn't beep every time I touch it. You can change the brightness of the display, and it will automatically adjust to the brightness, since this does have an ambient sensor, so we'll adjust the brightness on its own. Storage, it has built-in storage, so it has 28 gigs of built-in storage, and we have another 28 gig of micro SD card, so it's basically 32 gigs each, but after it formats it at 28 gigs. Some of the other features that you can add to this is the TPMS, which is what I'm adding to this bike. We also have headset, GPS, remote control, BSD, and of course we can update from here as well, which I will do. We also have a few different languages, so if that helps. And that's pretty much it as far as the features on this device, you know, just looking at it like that. Very nice IPS display, so you can see that the blacks are very black on this screen. They're not, you know, grayish and stuff like that, which is important, especially when driving at night. But now let's test out the CarLink. So we're gonna go to CarLink and we're gonna connect CarPlay to our device. And as soon as I click that, my phone is asking me if you'd like to use CarPlay. I'm gonna say yes. Well, there it is, already connected. Now that's pretty impressive. That was very quick. I didn't even have to do much else other than connect to the app in the beginning. And now it just works. So here we can go and do our standard CarPlay stuff, right? So I'm gonna have to censor the map, of course, but basically you can have full screen map. You can go back and have your standard Apple CarPlay stuff, right? So you have your messages, you have your map, or you can, if you prefer, you can use Google Maps. Or if you prefer to use Waze, you can do that as well. You can play your YouTube music or Spotify or anything else that Apple CarPlay does, will do. And the amazing thing, look how smooth this is. Look how smooth this is. This works really nice. And of course, you can also receive your phone calls and messages. So somebody texts you, you can view that on this unit. And a lot of the times it will actually read that out to you on your headset. If you like, you can just connect your AirPods and then it will work that way. And of course we can just click right here and go back to the dashboard and use this nice view right here for when you're just driving around. Maybe you don't need the app. And once again, I am very impressed how fast this is. Just look how fast I can go back to CarPlay. Boom, it's right there. If I want to go back to this screen, I can do that. Very impressive. So what I'm going to do now is set up the TPMS and then we're going to go for a ride.
I went with the TPMS add-on as my bike doesn't have this feature and I find it very useful. The sensors come in a separate box in which you get 2 sensors, 2 locking nuts, and the wrench to help you install these. There are little ridges on the bottom of the sensor which the wrench slots into. Pretty clever design. Anyway, I went to the TPMS screen on the unit and clicked on Add Sensors and then installed them one by one. You have to install the front one first and then the rear. You want to install the nut first though, then the sensor, and then back off the nut to secure the sensor in place.
Now we can switch the units from bar to PSI because that's what I'm used to, and yeah, I think we'll switch to Fahrenheit as well. So now when we go back, we have that information displayed here and here on the meter as well. So we have all of that information on both displays. Very cool. Wow, I love how I can actually see it at speed. I mean, I'm going pretty decent speed and there's no problem seeing any of the numbers. Very clear. I also don't see any vibrations at all. I mean, my dash that's built in vibrates more than this. This is so cool. You can clearly see all of the numbers. I can see my speed, I can see the voltage, the altitude, the pressure in my tires. Just as easily I can have my CarPlay on. I can have my map in full screen so I know where I'm going. But mostly I'm impressed with how fast it is, how easy it is to navigate, and just how smooth the whole process is. I mean, you don't see that on a lot of motorcycle CarPlay units, and obviously this is a lot more than that. And yeah, you can just go as easily back, exit back out, and we can even go to cameras. So we can have the front and the rear camera. So we have the front right there, or we can switch to the rear so I can see who's behind me. So I can have a little security right there. I can look at what's happening behind me as I'm riding. And see right there on the right side, we just had the caution pop up. That's telling me that there's somebody on my right side. So there's built-in AI that will actually help you figure out what's going on. You probably have to mount the cameras just a little bit better for that. I mounted mine just to be more hidden. I will most likely remount them somewhere underneath where it's also not visible, but maybe you can see the entire road, but still very cool. We also have the blinking red LED here to tell us that we are recording. GPS signals right there. So far we've done 6 kilometers. I do have to change this to miles. I didn't change it before we started, and I don't want to dig through the menus right now. This is basically an all-in-one system, if you ask me, especially with those add-ons, adding all these other features that you want, and I'm sure they're going to be coming out with more if there is demand for them.
So that's gonna be cool to see. You know what? I might start going out in the winter more. It's not that bad. Not even cold. All the adrenaline of being on the bike doesn't even matter. Whee! I'm definitely gonna get the OBD2 port. I honestly didn't think I was gonna need it, but I think it'll be cool to have that information. And this motorcycle does have an OBD2 port, so it should work pretty well. And another thing, I can perfectly see all of my gauges and this thing at the same time, because it sits right on the handlebars, doesn't obstruct anything, and doesn't go up or down. It literally sits in the perfect position. It's as if they made the bracket for this motorcycle. And it seems like every view still has your direction, it still has the time, it still has your speed, so it doesn't matter what you choose, you still get your information. I was actually going to mount the rear camera right under the fender, but I think I would get a lot of dirt and rain and all that stuff on the lens, so I wouldn't see that well. I'll have to think of a way to mount it above the fender, but also get all of that view from the back and not what I have here. Although it's not bad. You can still see under the fender and see both ways. I'm just not sure if the ADAS systems are gonna work that well, but maybe I'll make a follow-up video just to see how that works. But so far I'm very impressed with this. It's also really cool that there's physical buttons at the top, so if you don't have touch sensitive gloves, when you're stopped you can just press the button on the top and you switch between the different screens. So you can go to CarPlay, you can go back to this original screen, you can go to the cameras, or you can press that button to turn the display completely off. And even though the BMW R9T is a fairly modern bike, it doesn't have TPMS built in, which is kind of crazy. It has ABS and other things, but not tire pressure monitoring system. They say it has to do with the spoked wheels, but I've seen some motorcycles that actually have TPMS on spoked wheels, so I'm not sure. But this was a very easy way of adding TPMS to the bike without having to have like an additional screen that I wouldn't already want to have on my bike. Well guys, I am super impressed with this system and I would love to hear your opinions on this as well. So do leave your comments down below. If you'd like to learn more about the unit, check out the links as well. Thank you so much for watching and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!